For more on all of that, we're joined by our international affairs editor, Armen, Georgian. Good morning, Armen. Can you maybe outline the position of both sides in this rather complex situation?
Well, Iran's position is simply that it deals with a country, not with a specific president, and a country has international obligations. So for Tehran, it doesn't matter that Donald Trump is not in power anymore. As far as Iran is concerned, the Biden administration is in breach of the nuclear deal. Let's take a listen to the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations, interviewed this week by our colleague Sanam Chantier.
So it is the United States that needs to start implementing its obligations in order to gain the trust of the Iranian people. So when we are talking about return to the nuclear deal, we have to bear in mind the fact that the United States is obligated to honor its commitments.
Now, President Biden's position is actually a plan that has three parts. One is to deal with the sanctions issue. Of course, those sanctions were reinstated and imposed by the Trump administration. Secondly, to deal with the question of fissile material. There's a restriction on the production of that fissile material in the nuclear deal, a time period of 15 years, but Biden wants to extend that beyond 15 years. That's something that the Iranians will, of course, resist. They say an agreement is an agreement. This is what everyone signed up to. And thirdly, the third part of Biden's plan is to essentially limit Iran's ballistic missile program. Again, on that, the Iranians will resist because they say this has nothing to do with the nuclear deal. So it's hard to see a landing zone for a broad agreement at this point.
Now, there's been pressure, a lot of pressure on Joe Biden on the issue since he took over at the helm from various partners, Armen. Can you give us some details on the pressure that he's under?
Well, first of all, he himself has signalled in the past that he wants to go back into the nuclear deal, and now he's being told by the Europeans that there's a very small window of opportunity, firstly because there's this deadline of February the 21st that you mentioned in your introduction, but also because there's a presidential election in June, which could also change the whole dynamic. So the Europeans want something to be done now. Biden wants to improve relations with his European allies after a somewhat lukewarm spell during the Trump presidency. At the same time, Trump, of course, wants to keep the Abraham Accords, that is the normalization process between Israel and the Gulf Arab states. And if he moves too close to the European position, if he tries to do this rapprochement with Iran, that's obviously going to push Israel and the Gulf Arab states away. So it's very hard for Biden to have a kind of unified Iran policy that works both for his European allies and for his Israeli and Gulf Arab allies.
Armen, Georgian, thank you for that.